It's December 31st, 1982. It had been an eventful year last year. Michael Jackson's Thriller was just released, the first genetically engineered plant went on market, and Cats opened on Broadway. It was an interesting year for sure, but now the year has rolled over, and something big was coming. Something that would change the world forever. On January 1st, 1983, the internet was formally created. Yes, technically, this was something that was worked on for decades before 1983, but this is the official birthday of the internet because a company called ARPANET adopted a TCP/IP, a communications model that linked multiple networks and allowed data to come through. The internet, as we know it today, really actually started around 1990, though, when Tim Berners-Lee invented the World Wide Web, which is the information system through which the internet we use today works. With the combination of that communications model and the information system, the internet became much more widely available for everyone to use, including everyday people. Which brings us to the year 1997, when I was born. Okay, so technically I didn't use the computer right out of the womb, but I think context is important. In 1997, my mom also actually started working the job she has today, working in IT for a community college. My dad was also tech savvy, working at a tech help center for a fair amount of my youth. To say I've always been around computers and technology would be true. This is pretty normal nowadays, but if I was born just a few years earlier, it would be a completely different story. I think we forget how young the internet and its accessibility really is. I mostly grew up playing computer games. My parents were careful to keep me off the internet at a young age, but by the time I was in elementary school, I was playing Neopets every day after school. This was basically my introduction to the internet. Going into middle school, I used the internet more and more. I had my own laptop and started to draw digitally. YouTube became a thing around middle school, so many hours were spent wasting away watching videos.
I like turtles.
The internet was becoming more of a stable and important thing in my life and everyone else's. But in middle school, something happened. I started to get really sick, and no one can figure out why. I ended up staying home for most of 8th grade because I was sick, and the internet was a great refuge for me. It helped me get through days where I had nothing to do but lay in bed feeling ill. I ended up skipping my 8th grade graduation. I started high school alright. I finally got diagnosed with something known as POTS, which affects your body's ability to circulate blood. It's a chronic illness, and I still struggle with it today. But my freshman year was pretty good. I was going to school a lot, I was making new friends, and I had gotten into my big first obsession. One Direction. I think this is something I would have felt embarrassed about sharing a few years ago, but due to reasons you'll learn, I'm very grateful I got into them. My interest in them eventually turned me to create my own blog for them on Tumblr. I even made fan art for them, some of which members of the group have seen. I was on Tumblr literally every day, keeping up with the 1D news. High school did not get better though, and I honestly can't even go into detail about my sophomore and junior years because they were such a blur. All I know is I was really sick. I made it to school a total of 6 days those 2 years, and eventually had to drop out because my grades were getting so low due to missing schoolwork. I was falling behind, and the only real interactions I had with people were on Tumblr. So I turned to the internet to make friends and have at least some sort of semblance of social interaction. The next year, I got my GED. It took longer than it should have because of my accommodations I needed for my medical problem, but it got done before I would have graduated from high school normally. My family ended up moving that year to the suburbs of Chicago, closer to their jobs, but it meant I was officially away from everything and everyone I grew up with. I started community college classes the following year. I only went part-time because I was worried about pushing myself, especially considering how bad my health had been just a year prior. This school year ended up being a big deal for me. I proved that I could go to school and be okay, and I ended up meeting some of the most important people in my life to this day. I was still on Tumblr at the time because I felt like I knew no one at the school. One Direction was honestly on their way out, but I still dedicated time and energy to them. I'd really gotten into my art of them and had even made a few bucks selling prints and stickers online. That fall, an art account followed me. Now, I had had internet friends before this, but they mostly come and go. I think they're things that can be very frail, as you really only know each other due to one common interest. But sometimes you end up meeting people who you have so much in common with and get along with so well that you know you're going to be friends for a long time. This was one of those people for me. Her name's Katie. I started following her too because I loved her art, and we ended up talking a bunch. She is, one of the nicest people you will ever meet. We played a lot of the same games growing up, we were both into Neopets, we both liked One Direction, and we both gravitated towards the internet. Katie introduced me to other people too. I grew really close with them, finding common ground between all of them for different things. Tara was one of my biggest saving graces during my time in community college, actually, because he had medical issues too and had gone to community college and had known exactly what I was going through.
I think that I don't know how you found your group of friends, but I think especially when you weren't feeling really well, and as you started at Oakton and were taking some classes and trying to figure out what to do, they had some good feedback and input for you. I think it was really good. It was a good thing for you to be able to have those friends virtually, because when we moved here, you didn't really make any friends in the area. So that was good.
The internet has made it possible to connect with people in a more specialized way than just like kind of meeting people out in the open, especially like meeting people at school. It's just, you just kind of all dumped into one thing. Honestly, as somebody who has struggled with autism their entire life, so I'm not always the best at socializing. I feel like making internet friends and then meeting up with them in real life afterwards really helps me.
Tara also had a similar story with gravitating towards the internet. That's actually how he met Katie.
When did I start using the internet? I was a little kid. Just like unsupervised, probably around 9 years old. I grew up with dial-up and all that. I was a kid who I had a lot of trouble making friends like at school, or I didn't really get the opportunity to be part of any sort of after school anything, and I had a rough home life. So basically, all sides were pushing me towards the internet. I feel like that was a place where I could really just kind of be in my comfort zone. I met Katie online as well. I met Katie through a website called DeviantArt, which I think still exists, where you upload art that you have made, and I somehow got to know of her, and I thought that she was just the coolest ever, and that her art looked so cool. And so I tried to be her friend, and somehow we ended up like in the same, like, there was a feature on DeviantArt for a while where there was like chat rooms. We ended up in the same one there, and from then on we were just inseparable. Katie and I had been best friends for a while, and then she just kind of said to me, "Hey, you're not in a safe place. Do you want to like come live with me for a while?" And of course I said yes. I mean, we had met each other in real life before that, but only like 2 times. So it's not like her parents like knew me really well or anything. But that event completely changed my life, and I just truly believe I wouldn't be alive right now if it weren't for Katie, who I met online, and I would have no opportunity to meet her otherwise. She lived in states away, so...
One spring, when I was still in community college, Tara started a D&D campaign. He asked if I wanted to join. I was really hesitant at first and anxious because it would be the first time I would ever talk to them with my voice. It honestly scared me, but I really wanted to hang out with them, so I took the initiative and said yes. Ever since then, I've talked to this group of friends pretty much every day. We don't do D&D anymore, but we still do weekly hangouts on Discord. I've met other people through them too, who I also call my close friends. Fast forward to last year. The pandemic was slowing down, and I decided that I would finally make the trip to see my friends. I was nervous about it for obvious reasons. Internet friends are not the most reliable when it comes to meeting in person, as seen from people literally getting murdered. But I'm actually a pretty paranoid person, and even I felt like I knew them well enough that it would be fine. I was mostly worried about if they would get tired of me when we saw each other in person, not if they would kill me. I flew out to California January 15th, 2023, and I didn't die.
I told Tara to get out and help you. Sometimes at night, you had
at our house. You can hear them going.
I actually had so much fun that I was sad I had to go home. About 2 weeks later, I ended up visiting them again. It was Katie's birthday, and our whole friend group was going to visit her. It was more fun than I thought it would be, and I had a blast.
The floor is kind of sticky, but I don't care because I'm here getting freaky with my friends, but not in a weird way, keeping it normal every night and every day.
I know at this point they're not really internet friends since I've met them in person twice, but I still consider them that because it's my main way of communicating with them. I know there are people out there that don't consider people you meet on the internet to be real friends, but I think that's an outdated stance. The times have changed, and while I think you should still definitely be cautious on the internet with what you tell and share with other people, you might also meet people who change your life. I don't know where I would be if I didn't have my friends to support me through school and life, if I didn't have my scheduled hangouts, if I didn't run my silly little blog. I think I'd be worse off. I'm glad I met them, and I'm glad I live in a time where I can meet people I wouldn't normally be friends with simply because we don't live near each other. I'm very grateful for the internet for leading me to my friends.
We connected over one specific thing, which was One Direction. And then from there, we were able to talk to each other through the language of One Direction and kind of learn that we had a lot in common and we have complementary personalities, I feel like. And I love you, and I love hanging out with you.